Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of You Hate to See It, where we talk about all the shows and movies you love and hate to see. As always, I'm KP, and I'm joined by a very, very, very special guest. We got the one and only Dr. Hate, Dante Wilder in the building. What's up, brother?
Yes, sir. Dr. Hate, Dr. Fate, man. I am inevitable, bruh. Glad to
Yes,
be
sir.
back. Glad to be back.
This man made some time out of his busy hating schedule to come chop
Exactly.
it up with us today. So we're going to talk about, I don't know about you, Dante, but this is probably my second most anticipated movie of the year.
Yeah, right after Dune. Right after Dune, I put it there because I was trying to. It's the movie release schedule looking a little light. If they ever release fucking Bike Riders, like maybe, but that shit was supposed to be released fucking a year ago. So, like,
Man, don't remind me about the bike riders. Man, niggas been waiting on that one for a minute.
yeah.
But speaking of bike riders, without further ado, we talking about Furiosa today, the one and only, the prequel to 2015's Mad Max Fury Road, which, one of the great movies of the last 20, 25 years. So without further ado, let's get into it, man. So what were your kind of expectations going into this movie? We were very excited about it, but as it relates to your relationship to Fury Road or the Mad Max franchise, like did you have like super high expectations or what? What were you kind of thinking going in?
I mean, bro, like Mad Max from I remember. So I had only seen Fury Road. I hadn't seen the older shit from like the '80s or whatever. So, but Fury Road was just fucking fun. It was just like it felt like a guy's movie, right? You just
Yeah.
got cool ass cars, niggas fighting and shit, just blowing shit up. Like, right? That's all I remember was just like cool shit happening, like a traditional kind of like action packed guys movie. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be a cool summer blockbuster. We're gonna have good, really cool action scenes and all that kind of stuff. So that's more so what I was expecting. I did not realize this shit was a prequel to to the other one until after the fact.
Oh
And
wow.
then like I think they could have done a little bit better of like making like, kind of making that connection on the trailers or whatnot.
Yeah.
But because it had been fucking damn near 10 years since Fury Road came out, so it's not like I fucking remembered that on top of mind, that yeah, because that literally came out in 2015. It's 2024 now, so yeah, 9 years later they did a prequel movie. Like they over here
Yeah.
on some Avatar shit, trying to take a decade in between making movies, bro.
Dang, that's crazy that you didn't know it was a prequel. But I mean, yeah, Fury Road is literally just 2 hours of just like straight action, like no explanations to none of that shit. You just
Fucking
like
shit up.
thrust right into the middle of it, and it's like, okay, pedal to the metal, nigga, we going. And so coming into Furiosa, I knew it was a prequel because obviously it's taking like the origin story of Charlize Theron's character in Fury Road. So I was really excited to see more of the wasteland one because in Fury Road there's like no explanation to none of that shit. So I'm like, okay, maybe we can get some background on why these things are the way they are. Because I mean, it's pretty interesting, with the resources being so limited, and you got like the Half-Lives and like the War Boys. Like I was really kind of interested in the lore of the wasteland. And so with this movie coming out, I kind of did some homework on like the Mad Max franchise or whatever. I went back and watched um, Mad Max 1, Mad Max 2, and Mad Max 3. And I'm here to report my findings that they're pretty mid. Except for the
Definitely not to the scale. I didn't even go. I didn't go back and do the research of watching all of them. I did like a YouTube explained on the kind of Mad Max saga. So tapped into like a 20-minute video, just like walking through it. And as I was seeing clips, I was like, yeah, I don't want to watch these. Like I was like, oh, that was more than enough because it's like that's still like pre-apocalyptic shit and they're like
Mhm.
working shit out and it's just not as cool, not to the scale, and it's
Yeah,
like more before it's like the apocalyptic dystopian franchise that you're familiar with in Fury Road and in Furiosa, which I think is where the story just gets a lot cooler, right? And there's
yeah,
still a lot more that they can go into. Like we got a little bit of like the warring rival biker clans and the factions, but like we still don't like get any clarity on how like Immortan Joe came around, like
yeah.
and how his factions came together. So like that's still, so there's still a lot of lore to unpack in this.
Facts. Yeah. So like the first three Mad Maxes, I would probably relate those to more like a The Last of Us or Walking Dead type of apocalyptic, or maybe even like Book of Eli.
Yeah.
And these last two are probably more like Fallout, where it's just like really far gone. Like these motherfuckers are not even human anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like if you want to take that journey back into the past and watch those Mad Maxes, two is probably the best, but you can really go without without them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just a very different story from where we are now with Fury Road and with Furiosa, where it's like you don't necessarily gain a ton of of that. Because it's not like Mad Max becomes like a Morton Joe or anything like that. Like it's
Facts,
these
facts.
are completely different characters, completely different story, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah, and it's not like a Star Wars type saga where you like someone rises up to become like, yeah, like you were saying. There's no sort of crazy character arc. It's just a bunch of pain and trauma. Which sign me up, man. Sign me up. Another reason, I was looking forward to because the casting, Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Hemsworth, two like rising, acting stars, movie stars that are kind of not necessarily waiting for their big break, but like trying to carry a movie kind of like on their own. And so I'm a big Anya Taylor-Joy fan, and Chris Hemsworth, I thought he's really good as Thor. He's funny. He's an electric kind of performer. But I was really looking forward for Anya's moment in the sun,
Yeah.
and we can kind of get to that a little bit later. But what did you think about the casting first and
Yeah,
foremost?
no, the casting was really cool. I mean, ATJ was the big draw for me, right? She's on the come up. We've seen her primarily on TV. So now seeing her like, with the Queen's Gambit, with Peaky Blinders, right? So and she really killed in Queen's Gambit, right? A lot of the subtleties of just like watching her facial expressions and everything, playing chess and subtleties and that kind of acting that
Mhm.
translated really cool. So I was curious to see it in like the big screen and in such like a big scale that is, the Mad Max franchise from, continuing on Fury Road. Like, right, it's really big scale. It's a grand kind of epic type movie. So seeing how she would do in that, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, we'll get
Yeah.
into it later, but they should have let her cook more.
Hey,
Is honestly my biggest gripe.
yeah, I'm coming around on that take for sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you look at Anya's resume, I mean, shoot, she was in Dune too. Like, even if it was for like
That
five
doesn't
seconds,
count. That doesn't
I mean,
count.
5 seconds, she was in that.
That was like saying Zendaya was in Dune 1. Like, those things don't really count.
I mean, like Anya's got movies, man. She's got. I mean, Dune doesn't count. Okay, but you got the Menu, you got the Witch, you got the Northman. So she's been racking up some good titles, but she hasn't really been the leading star just yet. And so now she's got this. The next Dune movie, I'm guessing she'll have a much larger role. So she's flying up the leaderboards right now, especially with the young actresses. You think about like a Zendaya, Sydney Sweeney, uh,
Yeah.
Margot. I mean, she's probably in that conversation now after this. So
We're ushering in the new generation. I know we've talked about this a lot offline too, but and
yeah,
with like different actors and actresses kind of taking over these new, like, we got to look at these big epic things, like, right, we got to move on from the George Clooney's, the Tom Cruises,
yeah,
the Leos, right?
Denzel.
What's that kind of next generation of big lead actors and actresses looking like, right? And I think ATJ is, primed to kind of step in.
Facts. We need like a nice new alien face out here, man.
Not
so
alien face, bro. I was like, I
hey,
know she got the wide eye thing. That's what she going for.
ain't nothing wrong with the alien face, man. Everybody got to be different, man. But all right. So initial spoiler-free reaction before we really dig in deep and get into the spoiler territory. But if you haven't seen Furiosa yet, Dante, what's your pitch?
Hey, bro, if you just want to see fucking tricked out cars, bro, this shit make Pimp My Ride look like it's a fucking joke, bro. You just see tricked out cars, explosions, actions, and actually some real creative murders, bro. Like this shit is fun, bro. So I just go in like that. All that shit just like that just made it fun to watch, right?
Yeah,
For me.
yeah. It's an absolute banger of a film. If you haven't seen it yet, this is probably where you should sign off the pod. But go see that because it's crazy. There's stuff in this movie that you've never seen before. Similar to Dune 2, it's just making things that kind of live in people's head into a reality in like a really crazy and creative way. So go see it. But if you have seen it, lock in because we about to dive into the spoilers.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
All right, we got sound effects and shit now. Let's go.
Sure, we official, man. All right, so spoilers. Let's really get into this thing, man, because this was a lot different from Fury Road in the fact that there's like an actual plot. There's actual
Yeah.
plot mechanics. There's backstory. We get some of the lore that we were kind of asking for from Fury Road. It's truly like a saga and an odyssey that starts with a young Furiosa, which is played by a different actress, so kind of similar to, I got to tie in House of the Dragon somehow. It's kind of similar to House of the Dragon with the actress change kind of halfway through. But we start with young Furiosa getting abducted, and there's an opening motorcycle scene when Furiosa's mom tries to go get her back from these two guys that have abducted her daughter. And like this thing starts off hot, like out the gate, man. We got motorcycles. I think they called it like the Thunder Bike, man. That shit
Yeah,
sounds amazing in IMAX. She's sniping niggas like over the sand dunes. I was like, okay, yeah,
they're like that when they're jumping off the horse and shit. Like in the other, what's that other chick that was with her? Because I've seen both of them. That her
yeah.
mom was. I saw her in Sydney Sweeney's Anyone But You recently. She was like,
Oh, really?
yeah. So the mom played like she played like an an Australian, like she was a supporting actress in that movie.
Okay.
So it was cool to see her kind of go in and do the actress stuff, and then her like I don't know lover or whatever was I definitely seen. I just can't remember her name. But that was such a cool scene seeing them like run on the dunes and they're just fucking sniping people from 500 yards away.
They really don't be missing. They never miss.
Like yeah, like they was really like that.
All right, so they kidnap Furiosa and take her to Dementus, and this is our first time seeing Chris Hemsworth as the Dementus character, which was kind of different from any kind of Mad Max character we were used to, especially coming from Fury Road, where the movie is not very dialogue heavy. Yeah. Chris Hemsworth comes in and he's just chewing scenery from the very beginning, just chatting. So what do we think about Dementus as a character and kind of Chris Hemsworth's performance in this role?
Yeah, I mean, Dementus was. I thought it was interesting, like with Chris Hemsworth. Like, I don't know, I wasn't as sold on him as I think most people. Like, I needed a little more of the manic stuff. He was great comedic relief. Dude was funny, and like you kind of need that kind of brevity to take away from some of the really dark shit that's happening in movies like this, right? So you need kind of a character that does that. Yeah. So having him like do that, and he does that well because he does that in Thor, right? So we've seen him be good at that, kind of being the kind of macho guy, but like he's not afraid to kind of poke fun at himself, right? So we got that aspect, but I didn't get the like Dementus is like a demented guy, right? Yeah. So it's like I wanted more selling of like him kind of like have a couple loose screws in his head, right? I wanted more of the kind of he's kind of crazy, he's kind of loose. Like he does do some evil shit now, like right? I was like not saying he doesn't do some fucked up shit, like, but like I didn't get that all the way kind of craziness for him to be the lead person during lines and all that stuff. Like I really needed that to like really drive it home. So that's why I kind of like that kind of knocks the movie from like great in me, but I still think it was like a really good film.
Yeah, that's real. I don't know if it's just Chris Hemsworth just like him being like kind of like a heroic figure,
Yeah.
but I don't know. He just never really. I never really got the vibe that he was just like gonna fully crash out. I mean, like I guess he was a crash out, but it just wasn't. I don't know how to say it, but I think you're kind of all over it because
Yeah, he was doing evil shit though. So it's
yeah,
like I was
no,
like, damn, this nigga's doing evil shit. He's kind of got like an evil mastermind kind of vibe to him and stuff. Like he's creating this
yeah,
stuff, but it's just like I don't know. I just wasn't fully sold on him. And like some of that might not even be this movie, right? It's just because we've seen him in Thor for so long, so you
yeah.
might have that associations with that
You know
actor in
what?
such a big role like that.
I think it is because part of it is because he's like across from someone like Immortan Joe, and Immortan
Mm-hmm.
Joe, he's like he don't say
True
much.
sicko. True
Yeah, he's
sicko.
true sicko. He don't say much. You know, he's got the wives. We already know that he's a dirty dog.
Exactly.
He's got the like the mask and shit. Like he just
His whole suit and everything.
yeah, he's got more mystique than Chris
Like, bro,
Hemsworth.
when we're so the crazy part of where you're juxtaposing them is like when he first shows up to the Citadel, right?
Yeah,
So he Dementus first pulls up, goes like makes this cool speech, right?
yeah,
Cool speech and everything. So I'm like, all right, he's piped up. He been fucking people up, like take conquering and everything, revs up the gang, like it just been him fucking people up for the last 30 minutes, right? Then
yeah.
you get to a Morton Joe and he said, pick somebody, bruh. And he's like,
Anybody.
what? He's like, and he picks someone out the crowd. That nigga jumps off a cliff and murders himself just because Morton Joe does it off huffing some paint fumes, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, see that's a true sicko right there. Like like it's just like there are levels to this shit, and it's like I was like, you're not that, bruh. And
Exactly.
so that might kind of have hurt him in this. Is just because you're going up against a true sicko, like
Yeah,
so it
exactly.
made him just
That
seem
scene
less.
was just so hard too. Like pick anybody, like I'll crash out, and that was a nod to Fury Road with the Witness Me going to Valhalla shit, which I thought was like the hardest part of Fury Road. Just hey, I love a good crash out, man. So
Exactly. I was like, I was like, I totally kind of like forgot about that. Like some of that, like, just not having seen Fury Road, like watching it before
hmm
made a lot of these more elements like new. Like I, kind of loosely remembered it. And like we said, it wasn't like a plot heavy, dialogue heavy movie, right? It was
yeah,
just fucking up like explosions, races, all kind of stuff like that. Like just straight action, right? So seeing how committed they were to Immortan Joe and like, this cult like devotion to him, whereas,
hmm
he's just got a bunch of rival gangs that he conquered, right? That's riding out with him.
yeah, yeah, exactly, and that kind of sends Dementus off on like some side quest, trying to get his XP up. So he
Exactly.
could come back and fuck with the Morton Joe. And that's a good point about how, Morton Joe's guys are all loyal. And we see kind of like the fraction, and they try to make a point of how Mentus's gang is like not really together just because of either how he treats them or his just kind of his lack of kind of gravitas that a Morton Joe has, or whatever it is. He just
Yeah.
doesn't have that same X factor that Joe has.
Exactly. Like you see it when he goes to so in the next part when he's trying to take over Gastown, right?
hmm
And he like concocts a scheme to attack the gas rigs as they're driving out, right? And
Yep.
he's like picking a dude out of the crowd. And the dude's like, I don't take my orders from you, I take my orders from the other nigga, right? And so like one of his lieutenants or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
like, you're seeing that kind of division there where it's like everybody like he's got lieutenants and got different gangs that kind of roll up to him, but it's like their allegiances for the most part are to their different groups, not to Dementus, right? Whereas Immortan Joe, there's a lot of different groups and all that stuff, right? But they all still seem to like you just don't have that fracturing, that division, that separation, right?
Right.
And I mean, it's because he conquered them, right? Because you see it as he goes through and conquers over one group while Furiosa's up in the cart, like
Age. Yeah.
in the jail cart, just being rocked around. He's like, "Oh, there's 20 of y'all. I would have welcomed them all y'all in, but now we only got 5 bikes." So, and then you just see people start fighting over that shit. I was like, "Dude!" And
Yeah.
then the way he fucking kills their leader, bruh, he has their leader strapped, each limb strapped to 5 bikes, like head, neck, arm, and then all drive off. I was like, that's some, like, he's doing some fucking evil shit, right? I was like, that's a real fucking creative way to murder a nigga, bro. And that's got to be hella painful after you make everybody kill people, and then they also got to drive off to kill their leader and shit. I was like, fuck, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that shit was insane. That first scene where they have to kind of like scrap for those 5 bikes, man. That shit was fire. But
hey, that woman was getting her ass cooked, and then she said, "Pow!" I was like, I thought she was down for the count. She was about that shit. She's like, nah, y'all not fucking with me, bro.
Hey, I needed her to go out a little sadder. I needed like that one-on-one at the end with her and Furiosa, just because like she's got too much of like a recognizable like demon type of face with like
exactly
deformity. I was like, okay, she has to. Like, I needed or wanted a bigger payoff for her going out at the end. But if you're wondering,
she ends up being one of the last that's riding out with him.
No, facts. Yeah, she is. She stuck through to the end. But yeah, if you're wondering why we're not talking about Furiosa in the movie Furiosa, it's because Furiosa has probably said like 2 words up until
at this point. She was fucking mute for 70% of the movie, which, like I said, is my fucking gripe with it. Like, I know she's good at like acting without saying shit, but there's only so much you can do with a fucking mute character, right? I was like, we talk about it in Thrones with the Night King, right? That nigga was fucking mute the whole show. So it's like you could kind of talk around him, but it's like all the dialogue was on Cersei, and we were like, oh, the story was more about the politics. That was never the real big bad, because it's just a fucking, it's all in theory. So her being a mute character kind of like, limits how much we really don't get her to cook until like the back quarter of the movie, right?
Yeah, facts. So like the whole first 30 minutes, we're learning about Dementus. We're seeing his side missions, and Furiosa is just kind of riding in like a little jail cart with a muzzle on, and she's kind of hanging out with the history man or whatever. And so whenever Dementus takes over Gastown, he comes back to treat with the Morton Joe, and ends up trading Furiosa to a Morton Joe for extra food and water to Gastown. And so this is kind of where we see Furiosa's story start to take off.
Yep.
Furiosa is brought on just because she's like a healthy woman, like a healthy girl.
Like, she's got no deformities, bro. Like, wow.
So they bring her on to put her in the breeding program, and she's
program. That's hilarious. Yeah.
Hey, Morton Joe, real sicko.
Sicko. Like, literally has a private oasis for his women that he's trying to make him a purified son in.
Hey, and that joint was looking nice. I literally, like, they got the only like greenery in the
exactly in the whole place, bro.
Yeah. So Furiosa obviously not with that. Morton Joe's son tries to do some nasty shit. And Furiosa cuts her hair off. She makes a little wig. She runs off, hides, and she starts to she does the old Arya Stark and pretends to be a boy for the next however many years. I don't think they really tell us, but we get
damn near like adulthood.
Yeah. Yeah, they just kind of like fast forward. They show the wig on the little branch. Fast forward that guy, and boom, Anya Taylor-Joy is here and doing this shit, and she's worked her way up to working on the war rig.
Yeah.
And
so that shit was so cool, man. I was like, I just want to like that. That's one element of this movie that's just so cool. If you're a person that just appreciates cars and shit too, and they start to like give a little element. Like, I'm not that deep in the cars, so like all the stuff that they're talking about when they're like naming out the engines, I know there are probably some car guys that are like geeking out over that shit, but like that is a cool element of the show. Is just like you just see tricked out cars just amped up for like fighting or it's got a claw on it. Then when you see later, it's got the little wrecking balls at the end that spin around to fuck shit up. I was like, this is like that shit was just cool. So it's just seeing it getting built and everything, and I think that's such a big element to like the Mad Max kind of saga, is that you've got these really cool like tricked out war cars.
Yeah, and like everything that we see them add, like it does end up paying off
Yeah.
in like action in the battle scene. So yeah, the car stuff is always a fucking hit. And so yeah, how did the kind of coming of age story of Furiosa kind of work for you? We know whenever she goes to Joe and she's doing her thing, she's climbing on shit, she's
Yeah, I mean,
how did it work?
I think it was cool. I think it's kind of a necessary step that the story just had to take. They're kind of a coherent thing, and they didn't spend a ton of time like dwelling on it. There they were trying to just kind of create that gap and then get to the next part where it's like her
Yeah.
being a part of like the Praetorian clan or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And get into that partnership with Praetorian Jack, into where she really learns how to be like you know Furiosa that we're familiar with. Like how did she get to that point? And it was like she was little. She was able to, fit on things that other people weren't and get to places that other people weren't. Then she was able to work on cars. So that's how she got that expertise going. And then now we're gonna see like, that sets her up where, during that action scene where they're attacking the war rig, right? She was trying to plot her escape back home. Like that's her whole drive, is just to get back home.
Yep.
But she ends up like taking the next, I don't know, 5, 10 years, like working with this partnership with the Praetorian Jack, right? And really, really perfected that craft that you need to survive in the wasteland, right?
Right.
That's the next step where it really starts to lock in. Like that war rig scene was crazy with the fight
Yeah,
and
let's talk
everything. Like
about
she's
that war.
hidden under.
Yeah.
They're like live repairing the shit. Wow, like this
Yeah.
dude trying to plant C4 on it. You got dudes throwing bomb spikes and shit. Like this shit was just cool, bro. It's just
Got
cool
dudes
and it's fun.
pouring piss on the engine and shit, like
Exactly.
motherfuckers
Yeah,
fly.
this like the piss boy. He's like he's laid on fire. He pouring piss on himself. I was like, damn, them niggas really don't have water. That it's like they got to use piss to fucking cool the engine or cool themselves and all that shit off.
Yeah, and yeah, because like Fury Road, I mean, that just set like the bar just so high for like that road kind of warfare.
Yeah.
You got the people on like the poles going back and forth. You had the guy playing the guitar, like it was just like
Yes.
so hard. So it's like, how do you top that? And George Miller says you put parachutes on these niggas. You gotta
Exactly. That was coming up. Like those saw those in the trailer with the fans locked in. I was like, damn, these was fucking niggas up. Then they had fucking like ballistic arrow thing that they were
yeah,
shooting up top.
people sliding like on the yeah, and like the motorcycles. Dementus has a fucking motorcycle chariot, which is hard.
Yeah, that's tough. Now his whip is like that's very and it's like because he's got like that kind of Roman influence even with the name with Dementus, right? So
Yeah.
you see like that element to add in there. Like that was pretty lit.
Yeah, that shit is fire. Yeah, but that was probably I would say it was my favorite scene just because you see like a lot of Furiosa in action. You know, she's working on the car, she's shooting niggas, she's
Yeah.
doing this, she's crawling on the bottom. We see Jack in action. We see the war boys doing their thing, throwing their sticks. Like it's just like a beautifully kind of choreographed chaos that was
Yeah. And
fire.
it's a pretty tight scene, like right.
Yeah,
And I'm sure we're getting there next. Like you juxtapose that to the next big battle scene that is, the bullet farm,
yeah,
right? The bullet farm attack after the kind of the negotiations between Dementus and Immortan Joe were kind of now estranged, right? He's losing control of Gastown, right, because of the warring factions that he's trying to manage, right, and everything. So they're trying to set up, that war between them two, and he
yeah,
tries to take out, another one of Immortan Joe's strongholds, the Bullet Farm, right? You see when they're coming to pick up all those bullets and everything, that was like that was a big epic set piece, right? So that's got a lot of moving parts, right? Juxtaposed to against the War Rig one, where it's like, it's tighter. It's probably like 5, 6 different bikes, but like you said, I might have enjoyed the War Rig one more. Like thinking
yeah.
about it, even though the Bullet Farm one was like crazy cool in its own right too.
Fast. Bullet Farm, I think, before we get into Bullet Farm, let's talk about Jack, Praetorian Jack, because he is what really kind of makes the Bullet Farm set piece kind of tick, if that because that emotional connection is there.
Exactly.
So, what were your thoughts on Jack as a character? I mean, he didn't really have much to say, really much to do besides kind of look cool and just be like okay, this is like a normal guy that Furiosa can find something in common with, whether it's
Yeah.
like a like I don't, they never really implied if it was either like sexual or friendship, but like it was enough. Like these
Yeah.
two normal looking motherfuckers, like they gotta have some sort of bond just off the rip of just being like two attractive people in the wasteland.
Exactly. I mean, it was some kind of relationship, right? I think we assume that it's a romantic, right, type relationship just because of that. We don't assume that it's like a big brother kind of thing,
Yeah,
a brother sister type deal. I think it is kind of implied that it's a romantic one, but like, I think that's the part where we start to cook with gas because we're seeing like, hey,
yeah,
this guy has never not done one of his missions. Like he is him, right?
yeah,
So we're seeing he is, and that's who Furiosa came up under, right? So that's who she learned how to do all of the crazy shit that she can do, right? And so you're seeing like kind of the coaching tree, we're saying that she's coming from in
yeah,
that period, and that's where we're starting to understand like the kind of the mythos that is, Furiosa, right? Because of she gets attached to Praetorian Jack and kind of elevate it to even another level, right? So
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
that was, I thought that was cool. I think it was a romantic relationship there, and even without much being said, like you could see that was a
you
pretty
feel it, yeah.
genuine bond that they formed with him just not being a scumbag, right? In the world that's surrounded by a bunch of scumbags.
Facts. And so yeah, that's what kind of makes like the bullet farm really work is because Furiosa has a chance to dip. She really could have just left that nigga, but
Exactly.
that connection is there. So she goes back. She tries to save Jack. She does save Jack. They get away, but that monster truck was a motherfucker.
That monster truck, bro. I was like, yeah, that's another one of those sick ass cars that I was like, this nigga just rammed down a metal gate, right?
Right.
That the Warrior couldn't even get through,
You
bro.
feel
Like
me?
they tricked out a crazy car after we're seeing like
That shit went
in
straight up a dune.
yes, went straight up a dune as they're like going around, and it's like I love that they showed elements of like when that chase is going on after they've now destroyed all of Bullet Town, right? You see the bikes trying to go up and they fail, and then you just see the monster truck just eat up
Yeah.
that shit, and it's like, damn, bro, like that's some cool shit, right? That we got to see, and I don't want to skip past like all the cool shit that happened in the Bullet Farm scene where it's like you got the crane kind of swinging around,
Yeah.
she's
Sniping.
sniping the fuck out of niggas, like they are pinned down, right? Can't creep out as she's coming to
RPG.
exactly as she's coming to help it out. So like I thought that was a really cool scene. Then you've got like the lava kind of floating over as he's stuck, and he's got to like
Yeah.
jump onto another car to kind of get onto that too. So I thought that was just a cool scene, and then it goes right into the chase right after it, and then
Yeah.
once they inevitably get caught again, some more sicko shit by Dementus.
Dude, yeah, okay, so they're chasing a Furiosa and Jack down in the monster truck. Furiosa shooting out the window. Dementus rams the car they're in. Furiosa's arm gets fucked, like
It's
straight up shredded. I was like,
really fun.
ooh. It was like a visceral reaction to that because I could
Yeah.
just feel that shit. I was like, ooh, like,
And what's worse too is you've got like that's the arm that she's been tattooing her way back home on too. So
damn,
she just lost her map home, right? So it's like I think
damn.
it kind of did a double thing of just like right, it viscerally like and physically that's got to be hella painful, but like emotionally that's been her drive and everything, right? And you're seeing it literally being crushed right before you.
I didn't even peep that. Sheesh,
Yeah.
this is why we got Dr. Hate back on
Hey
the
man, I'm telling you, that's I was like shit. I was like shit. That's why I said you just gotta let her cook a little more.
Hey,
Then the movie started to pipe up. I was like, we're now in the back third of the movie, at this point, right? And I was like, now we cooking with gas, bruh.
yeah, man. So she loses the arm. First of all, she's hanging up on the arm. She cuts the arm off.
Cuts
That's
the
hard.
arm off, bruh.
That's hard. She's struggling back to the citadel, and this is where I feel like, all right, so because she loses Jack, obviously gets
Yeah.
tortured to death. He's
That
getting
I was like that torture of just having them strapped to the bikes
that's
and like ride around in circles till you're riding. Like I thought that was sick enough. I was like, damn, they're just gonna drag this nigga till he can't. They would stop, make that nigga get back up, keep running, and drag till you're too exhausted. Then that nigga sick the dogs on him too at the same. I was like, damn. So he running and got dogs eating at his body. While I was like, that's why I said this nigga does some straight up evil shit. Like it's some real
Demented.
crazy murdered shit. Like I see why you could say he was demented.
Yeah.
Like with the way he's crucified her mother at this point. He's done ripped a nigga limb from limb, like with bikes, right? And now he's taken her, her romantic partner, her lover, right? And made her watch as he was dragged by bikes and eaten alive by dogs, right? Maybe. So it's like he's done some true horrid shit to her.
Yeah, maybe he's just too charming.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's too charming. Like he does some evil shit, but I was just like, damn, I don't hate this nigga as much as I should. Like I don't hate him.
I'm like, this nigga fresh. He got the chariot in the
exactly. I was like, when he was wearing like the white stuff, and I was like, oh, they're trying to make him like a messianic figure and everything. He's all got like history people trying to be smart and everything, and then it's like the blood flare, which is just blood that they made into a flare, and now he's got all the red thing. I was like, oh, that's hard, bro. Like that's hard. That cape that he got now with the red hair and everything and the beard, he just let it like kind of become a part of his look and everything now.
Yeah, that shit was smooth. It's hard to hate on Dementus, even though he was very fucked up. But yeah. I mean, that's just the Chris Hemsworth effect, I guess. So you just gotta kind of take it for what it is.
Exactly.
But so this was a part. I'm not gonna say that I bumped up against it, but I kind of wanted a little bit more, and I understand I would have made the movie like hella long. But whenever she loses her arm and she goes back to the Citadel, or whatever, I feel like they just kind of like brush past her kind of like get back. It's like, okay, she builds the arm, she shaves her head, but it didn't really feel as like much of a transformation as it could have been. Like I feel like I wanted some more kind of lore behind it. Like, how did she learn how to make I guess I know how she learned how to make the arm, but like what went into it? How did she, like, why did she make it like that? And now that you say that she lost the arm with the map on it, like what kind of went into this new mechanical arm? I kind of feel like, but maybe that's just me being a nerd and wanting too much lore in my movie.
I mean, I think with the runtime of the movie too, this was like a 2.5 hour film, right? They broke it into like 5 different acts, right? In terms of it as you're watching. So it's like, it is not a short film. No. Right. So they've already tried to, and it's with the way they're expanding the world, right? Adding in Gastown, Bullet Farm, right? The Citadel. Then you've got the land of the many mothers is what you're calling that, their oasis, right? So you've got a lot of world building that they did. And then we've talked about like the factions in both of the different things. Like, so there was a lot that they did in that time. So like adding in more, would have been nice. They would have had to like subtract from that world building somewhere else, which I mean, I think I would have been okay with, because my biggest gripe with this film is like we just didn't get enough time with ATJ. Yeah. So like I think I feel you on that, like getting a little bit more of like kind of her mentality shift, because right, we know that she hates Dementus, right? Yeah. But she kind of like, as being like when she was a kid, she kind of developed to like see him kind of like a father figure, right? He even claims her as such, and he's like taking actual like, good care of her and, making sure like different things after, crucifying her mother, of course, but and making her experience like crazy harsh realities, right, that are the wasteland. But there is a connection there. So I really like, if we just play it into understanding more of like her mindset and like her slowly, like seeing her just lose it more progressively instead of just like the switch that it had to be. Yeah, I think would have been cool to dive in. Yeah, a little bit more of a, not just a montage of her building stuff, but like just more of her anger and her hatred, like just kind of festering and building.
And even like, now that I think about it, like there's voiceover. Even if the voiceover would have been her voice, I feel like that would have just given her just some more kind of say over her own story, over Furiosa, So we're saving the justice for ATJ for the end. But let's talk about this revenge.
But again, that's not the series, that's not the saga, right? This is the first time we've seen kind of any character development if we're like being harsh on the series. So I don't think we should be like too harsh, right? The
Yeah,
Saga is like, hey, it's action. You're gonna see crazy cars and cool
yeah.
action sequences, and right. So it's like we got a good bit of character development. Like I think we're this is not a drama. This is an action film.
Also, I was just watching the interview with George Miller before this pod.
Yeah.
Turns out that Fury Road was originally supposed to be an anime, but they shot it live action instead.
Wow, hey, they could have done some crazy shit with it being animated and everything. You could have really got real crazy with the action scenes and stuff
They
there.
could have got gory, graphic as fuck. Yeah,
Exactly.
But shit turned out great either way. But
yeah, with like an R-rated animated kind of thing. I mean, they could definitely look. There's enough for this to make some original IP with like a TV show that they could fill in some like an R-rated kind of Invincible type, like that kind of mold in terms of like an animated show. I would sign me up for that kind of a
definitely. I'm interested. If they want to do like how Dune has their show coming out. Give me a little prequel, wasteland. Let's build out this world a little bit.
Build out the wasteland. Build out some of them clans that we're doing. Like some of the stuff that like can get us more connected with the characters, but like you just can't do in a movie.
I know there's some black people.
You got a tight story that you got to do in 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah. You heard me? I know there's some black people out there. Where the Aborigines?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Where the niggas at, bruh? Come on, bruh. Like lock in, bruh.
All right, so this revenge, the final kind of revenge. Furiosa says, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do this shit myself."
Yeah.
He takes what's that buddy's name? Scrotus. Scrotus's car.
Scrotus and Rectus, bro. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, nasty. But she takes the car and goes after Dementus herself.
Exactly.
And we get this final showdown. And at first, Dementus doesn't really know who she is. He's tortured and done wrong to a lot of people. So
I liked that element too. He was like a woman. He was like, you're gonna have to do a little bit more than that.
Come on now.
He's like, did she scream? Did she cry? I tend to remember the ones that did it more. He's like, I was like, damn, this nigga evil, bro.
He's popping his shit. And Furiosa finally, gets to say her piece. She's like, I want everything back. I want the years back. I want people back. And Dementus like, I can't give you that shit back, man. The only thing you can do out here is just try to find some shit that try to find some excitement, fucking people up.
Exactly. He's like, you were bored. He's like, I provided that excitement, that that reason for living. He's like, you're like me, and she's like, fuck that. I'm not like you. But I mean, she kind of ended up being, there's a lot of similarities with Dementus and kind of how she acted after, all the shit that she'd gone through. Obviously, it kind of makes sense.
That's the classic villain line, like, oh, we're just alike.
Yeah.
We're the same, you and I. Like,
exactly. I was like, not really. I was like, it's more so because you fucked them up, so now they're just trying to get that shit back in blood, like,
Thanks.
Like I thought that that kind of chase scene was pretty cool as like they're splintering off, right? And he's ended up being the last one that they find, and she's just so slow and vicious with it, right? In terms of like, hey, he hides. Like, first she drains his water, steals his tire, right? So she's just like playing games with him, toying with him, right? And everything. Then she's chasing him. The backup. Now this is one part. What did you think she kept? He would like walk back to the car and then she would like reverse back the car. That was a bit confusing to me. What did you think was up with that?
Yeah, I think, she was just kind of fucking with him, just like, oh, you trying to get closer to me, like, nigga, fuck you type shit. Because, I mean, I guess what she had planned for him was pretty diabolical, like turning the motherfucker into
a tree.
That's crazy.
That was crazy. Yeah, there was like, I thought for a second she was just going to end it quick.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, because, I mean, it was a good callback, too. Symbolically, like, they kept coming back to how that peach, like the peach pit, right? And how that symbolized, her oasis that she had back home that she was kind of rooting on. So whenever she was, like, gritting it out in a really tough moment, like, right, all the time she was shaving her head or doing some crazy shit, she would take that peach pit out, pop it in her mouth and like bite down on it, right? And that it's kind of symbolizing that, like, hey, at her lowest moment, like the thing that's driving her is trying to get back to her family, her original life. And so then making like, turning him into the thing that was taken from her and having
Yeah,
that nourish the thing. I was like, damn, he's nigga has the roots growing out of his body, right?
facts. And it's not like he's just like a human fertilizer. Like, he's still alive, but
Exactly. He's
can't do
just
shit.
slowly being eaten alive and decaying, and you see like water dropping on, like just enough water to like keep him breathing still,
Yeah,
like right dropping on him.
that shit.
I was like, damn, I was like, damn, that was some fucked up shit. Like I said, they got some real, like, that's one thing I put in my letterbox review on this. I was like, this was crazy action, cool cars, and some really creative murders.
Right.
Like, really creative.
I just made this connection, but yeah, it's just really kind of diabolical, just like in the same kind of way The Boys is. Like, it's irreverent in that same way. Like, we don't give a fuck. Like, we just gonna do some cool ass shit, blow some shit up, and y'all gonna eat it up. So
Yeah.
hell yeah, I really enjoyed the revenge. She really walked him down in the desert. Like, I think the ending was sweet, and it made me wish that Furiosa talked a little bit more
Yeah,
throughout the whole.
I was like, damn, it made me. I was like, yeah, maybe we gave Chris a little too much runtime, and
Yeah,
like we needed to just balance that out a bit more, right?
just yeah,
I
think
think I
about
got more than enough Dementus, and that's why I think,
yeah,
like, I know we'll probably get into this, like, overall, like, thoughts of the movie and everything is like, yes, he was cool, he did some evil shit, but like you said, he's just a little bit too charming for that role. Like,
yeah. This
he's
yeah,
just a little, like, and
right,
the comedic relief that you offered is like he's a little too likable for me to really hate him.
facts. You
Like,
feel me?
fully. And it's like I needed to hate that guy for this movie to really, really, like, ring. And so
Mhm.
that's what, like, knocked it off a star for me
Yeah,
ultimately.
that's real. That's real. Yeah. If you, I'm just thinking like you dial the Hemsworth back just a little bit and dial the ATJ up a little bit more, then this
Exactly.
may be a perfect movie.
Exactly.
It may be. So, I mean, because you look at the stunts, you look at the CGI, which you really can't even tell at a C.
Exactly. It's like it looks very realistic, right? It's not like no shitty green screen, or nothing like that.
Yeah. And like even the performances, like we're talking about Hemsworth, but I mean, he did what he was supposed to do. He snapped. I mean, like
Exactly.
the script is the script. He
That's
just
great. Exactly. The script is the script. He played it well, bro.
yeah, facts. So I mean, I think at minimum, like this just has to be like 4 stars minimum, just because of what they accomplished with like the stunts, the CGI. Like this is literally a insane film to watch, just like Fury Road was. It's the same thing except for a little bit more story. But I mean, Fury
I say a
Road,
lot of bit more story
yeah,
actually.
yeah, a
Like,
lot with actual story.
I
Yeah,
was like, yeah, the limited amount of story for that film is actually crazy for it to be like so cool. It's like it
yeah,
was just like I'm not gonna give it the John Wick treatment, but it's John Wick adjacent.
facts. And
I was like, John Wicks are cool, John Wicks are fun, but John Wicks have like damn near no plot, right? And like Fury
facts.
Road was like in that similar kind of vein where it's just like cool action shit happening. Like,
Yes,
but yeah, they could have used some more story. And I think this one like kind of balanced that really well. We had a lot of good character development, a lot of good world building, right? As well as not losing sight of like what's cool about the saga, which is, the crazy cars, the epic action sequences, right? So
yeah,
we got the best of kind of both worlds. And so I think that's why, overall I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars, right? It's a really, really good movie. And, it's just like kind of minor gripes and, that kind of held it back from that
yeah,
kind of 5 out of 5 type
yeah.
hold.
I went 4.5 stars, and I'm gonna be real. The half stars is just straight bias. It's straight bias.
Hey, I feel it, bro. There's nothing wrong with it, and like Letterbox is averaging it like a 4, and Letterbox is some chief haters, bro. So there's some real resident haters at Letterbox. So if Letterbox giving this a 4 star, that's basically a 5 star movie right there,
Right.
man.
No, it's definitely a banger, man. And I mean, there are just like very small things that could have made it 5 star. But I'm really interested for when this comes out on video on demand and running that double feature with Furiosa first. straight into Fury Road. I'm interested to see how it kind of plays as a whole kind of 4-hour experience.
Exactly,
'Cause
as a tight story.
I think if you put them all, like if you put it together and the pieces fit, because like there's some small details that I'm wondering if they'll pay off in Fury Road. So like if those details kind of mesh and
Yeah.
it's like a perfect experience, then I might bump that thing up again. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
exactly. Hey man, I could be argued to the 4.5. I could be
saying?
argued to the 4.5. Like if enough, and like I got to go back and see Fury Road and see how it kind of connects. Like you
Yeah.
said, like I think I could be argued. But seeing like, hey, anybody that's going to watch this, go see that shit in IMAX with that
Yes.
that Dolby Digital around sound. Like get it whatever the nice quality of your theater is, the highest quality. Go see that. Like I was here in
Right.
mine, and it's like they got it built into I think like the seats or
Ooh,
something. So I was feeling like big
yeah.
action scenes. I was feeling like my headrest and everything shake just because of all of the you've got the full surround sound of everything. So it's just feeling so epic to it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely go see that biggest screen possible, IMAX, Dolby Atmos, whatever. Yeah, whatever the biggest kind of thing you can do, go see it. I can't recommend it enough. We
Yeah,
need the movies back, y'all. We do. We need the
exactly.
movies
Bring back the
back.
movies, man. Keep
Come
them
on.
alive.
I hope this does well at the box office. I heard that the previews weren't looking all too great.
Mm.
So we'll see. Maybe we can pull out like a 40, 50 million box office weekend. Fingers crossed, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if he can do like similar to Dune numbers, like why not? Why
I mean,
not?
Dune numbers were great though. Dune number wasn't 40, 50 million. I think they did
Yeah,
like 100 million open weekend.
yeah,
And Dune globally, like I think they ended up breaking the billion mark in terms of
yeah.
box
Dune,
office
Dune
sales.
was different.
I
Dune.
was like, I'm pretty sure Dune 2 broke the billion mark on box office sales.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, can we beat the Fall Guy? That's like beat
Yeah, we should definitely beat the Fall Guy.
the.
'Cause that's like I might have to go check that out on a Tuesday night, right?
Hey,
Just
it's on demand now. Go ahead and rent that.
oh well, then yeah, I don't even have to go pay for a movie ticket now. I was like, man, that came and went. They still had the Fall Guy poster up at the theater when I was
You
there.
know, it's still in theaters, but they was like, let's cut our losses and let's try to get some of this back on
Yeah,
demand.
get some of this back on streaming, man. That's crazy. Direct to stream. They mashed that direct to streaming button. I just
Type.
thought I was just seeing Emily Blunt in the pictures and stuff, and I was like, she looks younger than I thought she was. Like I thought she was older.
Really? No, Emily Blunt. I mean, she's like what, 36, probably 36.
Yeah, I just thought she was. I was like, I thought she was older.
Nah, man, she still got some life. She still got some life. But any final words before we wrap up, Furiosa?
Nah, man, just make sure y'all go see that thing in IMAX, man. It's a good experience, man. Bring back summer blockbusters because we needed it.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Go see Furiosa and keep it locked to Man Gossip because it's Dragon season, man. We gonna
It's
buckle down for
Dragon
Dragon
season.
season.
We got a lot coming back. We got Dragons coming back.
Mm,
We got the Bear coming back.
uh,
We got Acolyte drop in next
mm.
week too, right? So
The
there's some
boys.
stuff coming up. Like they trying to keep us inside for this summer, but we outside, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Be outside and inside and in your airwaves. But until next time, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, DWild.
Yes, sir.
It's me, KP. Go see Furiosa. This has been Man Gossip. Keep on hating, keep on seeing. We out.
Peace.
Peace.